watched Wolfpack, and here is what I thought. So, the show Wolfpack follows four teenagers. There happens to be a wildfire, and this is the wildfire that is like different than what they have seen before. And there isn't just a fire, there is something else in that fire. And whatever, who, or what it is, it changes these teenagers' lives forever. I do have to say, if you like Teen Wolf, I would definitely give this show a try. Jeff Davis helped develop this for a TV show, and it's based off a book series actually. And you can watch this show on Paramount Plus. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely go check out Wolfpack. We follow these four teenagers and kind of how they are a pack and how this huge wildfire changes the course of their lives forever. And in a little bit, I'll explain more about that. It means how this wildfire and these teenagers, and of course, if you guessed it, probably werewolves have to be in this show. So I don't want to say too much without giving it away. But yeah, four teenagers, a huge wildfire, secrets, werewolves, abilities, all the things. That is a very basic description and probably didn't tell you guys that much. So I'm going to get into spoilers now. So you have been warned. If you don't care, let's keep it pushing. If you want to watch the show, pause here, then come back when you're done and let me know what you thought. Okay, let's get into the spoilers for Wolfpack. So when this show starts, there is a massive wildfire, as I had mentioned before. And then there are all these high school students on a bus as well. And they seem to be stuck in some type of traffic because, there's this wildfire happening, so traffic is kind of not moving as fast as usual. And they can also see this fire from their window coming from the woods and the forest. And this fire seems to be getting bigger and bigger than anything they have seen before. And there seems to be some type of beast in the fire. And they don't really see it at first, but they begin to see animals and people getting attacked. So they don't see the actual beast, but they see people getting flung, attacked, bitten, and they are freaking out. So that's when they decide, okay, it's time to get off this bus. So once they get off the bus, all the students are trying to make it home, make it back to their families, make it somewhere safe and get off this bus where they're in the middle of traffic and kind of like a target. Some students make it home, and a few students do end up in the hospital because they were bitten. And two of the students, which we do focus on in this show, that were bitten were Everett and Blake. Everett ends up going to the hospital, but Blake does not. So this is when things start to begin to change, and they start noticing some differences. So Blake and Everett seem to be having dreams or visions of each other. They're kind of connected in some type of way. They both notice that they have been bitten and things in their physical appearance have been changing as well. And then something else that begins happening is they start getting some weird phone calls from someone, telling them to leave, telling them they need to hurry. And it kind of seems they're warning them or trying to help them out about something, but they're not really sure what. So after Everett gets a call, kind of like he needs to leave, he needs to go, because he's in the hospital. He ends up kind of leaving and kind of escaping the hospital. And he's looking and he finds Blake. So they're kind of talking and figuring out what's kind of going on because they're having similar experiences. And once they're together, something creepy starts happening. There's this beast, same beast that was in the fire. And this thing is huge, ginormous. This is not like an animal. This thing looks like a giant. And it was after them. So of course they're running for their lives, trying to escape from this huge beast, figuring out why does it want them. Eventually they get away, and the beast, as far as they can see, is not directly after them, so they feel safe. And Everett's kind of he wants to figure things out. Blake kind of doesn't want to get into it. She's she needs to go back to her brother, needs to help him out. She doesn't really want to deal with whatever is really going on. But they weren't the only students that were bitten. Later, Everett finds out that there was another student that was bitten as well. But he, at the time he was bitten, had a broken bone. He had a cast on. So his changes weren't super similar to what Blake and Everett were feeling. And then one day this kid's in the hospital and the beast was coming after him. But I guess since this kid was not changing how the beast wanted him to change, he was gone. The beast took him and that dude was gone. It's you don't make the cut, you're dead. Basically, that's what the beast said. From that moment, it looked like the beast was collecting the people. the beast was biting. And since that boy was still had a broken limb, he was the weakest link and had to go. And I was like, this beast's not playing. Like, you don't fit, you're not healthy. Like, I bit you, you're not worth it, you're gone. So one night, there's like this call that they hear, and it's only Everett and Blake that hear it. They're not together at the time, but they like hear a sound. It kind of seems like someone calling for them, and without their knowledge, they like just run to this like hill or this clearing. But they're not the only two ones that hear it. When Blake and Everett get there, they see two other students from their high school, and those two students are Harlan and Luna. They are siblings. None of them really know exactly how they got to where they got. They just know they were called and they just had to get there, go there, and be together. And they are all surprised that they see each other there. Some of them are a little bit more excited, some of them a little less excited, confused, what's going on? And they're not happy about seeing everyone there. And they all know in that instant they kind of all share something, but not all of them are ready to explore what that is just yet. So as I mentioned before, Harlan and Luna were also there with Blake and Everett. So Harlan and Luna, they're siblings, but we learned they were not bitten. They were born werewolves. And this is one of the parts that I loved about this show, because most things I have seen with werewolves in them, they were kind of like turned into a werewolf, or they changed. They were never like born a werewolf per se. Usually most of them were like born humans, and then somehow they end up later in life changing or were bitten. That's my limited knowledge. There could be a whole section where I'm not even realize where people are born werewolves. Anyway, I never really watched a TV show where there were werewolves that were born since babies. So their father, who is Garrett Briggs, isn't actually their biological father, but he is the one that had found them. So when he found them, they were wolves, and he saw two baby wolves in the woods, and he was, getting ready to call animal services. And it's like, hey, found two wolves, like, they need to be like taken care of, like, get them in the right place. But then when he has these wolves bring them back to kind of where he is, they soon change into babies, like newborn babies. And he's like, oh, this is not what I thought it was. And he immediately realized that they were different. So thank goodness he found them, because can you imagine if someone else that was not as kind-hearted as this man found these two wolves that turned into humans? No, that probably wouldn't end up good. But he decided to take them in as his own. We also find out that Garrett Briggs, who is their adoptive father, it's lost during this time of these wildfires, and these fires are real bad, worse than anything that people have seen. And this dude, he's a park ranger, but he's kind of, no one really knows where he is. They just know he's in the woods, lost somewhere, and they're hoping that they'll be able to find him in time, because there's only so much they can do with certain fires, and so they're hoping that they'll be able to find him in time before anything too bad happens. But a little later, they are able to find him, and they reunite him with his children. And as far as they know, he is the only one that knows about their secret. So in Wolfpack, we also learn that each one of them are part of this pack. So when I'm talking about the pack, I'm going to talk about Harlan, Luna, Everett, and Blake. So they're all bonded in a way. But they each have a special ability. Luna has a really good sense of smell. Harlan can hear very well. Blake can run really, really fast. And Everett is very strong. And this is also something that was different for me as well. In most werewolf things I've seen, all of them have heightened senses. So maybe they all have some type of heightened sense of those, but one of them's higher than the other. I'm not 100% sure, but I know they all have like a really special ability, and that's what it is for each of them. So I thought that was kind of cool that this is different, something I've never really seen before, that each of them have a certain special ability. And they don't really realize it at first, but they are all connected. One way they figure that out is when they're all being interrogated by the police about the fire and what happened. So they're all in their own interrogation rooms, all four of them, while I believe it's Everett is getting interrogated. He doesn't really know what to say, and they want to try to keep their story straight, but they didn't really talk about this before they had gotten to the police station. So Everett's kind of like just saying things, and then he hears Harlan in another room. It's like, man, just like, what are you doing? Because Harlan has special hearing. And then Harlan says something, and then Everett says the exact same thing Harlan said to the person interrogating him. And then that's when they figure out all four of them can hear each other. And so that's how they get their story straight. And eventually they are released by the police. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. So in certain situations or some way, when they're really connected or really together, they can share their power with each other. One person who's a part of this interrogation is Kristen Ramsey. And she's someone we get introduced to. So she is an arson investigator for the fire department. And she's trying to figure out who started this wildfire. Because it seems like it was started with a device. But as we get to see her more and more, you start to notice something about her, that she may know more than she is letting on. The way she's asking certain questions and the way she's kind of looking at these kids and how she's acting towards them makes me think she knows, but she's kind of waiting for someone to tell her first before she admits what she knows. But just looking at her, there's something up her sleeve. She knows something. So after they're interrogated, one of the cops kind of wants to push them a little farther, and he's like, no, they know more. And they're trying to calm this cop down, like, dude, calm down, it's fine, they're just kids. But he's like, no, they know more, and he wants to get answers or something. So when all four of them are at Harlan and Luna's house, they're kind of like hiding out because they know this beast is like after them, and they're trying their best to protect themselves. So while they're hiding / waiting and trying to protect themselves, this cop comes up to the house and is like, come out here, like, talk to me. So Harlan goes out. The cop starts roughing Harlan around, and the beast immediately snatches the cop and drags him away. Yo, it was creepy, scary. So the beast is like gone, and then the four of them are okay for the moment. But they're still like freaked out because like that werewolf beast thing is still there and it's still like kind of coming after them. And that cop body is not the only body the werewolf has. Later in the show, we see the werewolf's lair, and when this beast kills somebody, it piles in on top of the rest of the bodies, and there are so many bodies. It makes you think why it bit certain people and why it killed other people, right? Like, that's what I was thinking. But it killed a lot of people. And so the police and the fire department are kind of looking for this beast, looking for this animal, and they're actually really close to finding it. Like, they're in the building where this beast, this werewolf, keeps the bodies, but they just haven't found the bodies yet. And then here comes Kristen Ramsey, leading them down a different path, turns them away from that trail. She's like, oh, I'll check the rest out, y'all go. Because I guess they were called, something happened, the rest of them had to go, and she was there with like the person to open the door to the building or something. So she's there with him, and they find the pile of bodies, and you know what she does? She kills him and dumps his body with the rest. And I was like, this woman is crazy. When I thought she knew, I didn't think it was like this. Like, I didn't think she was a killer. But yo, I wasn't ready. And I was like, I am interested to see how the rest of this show goes. So as the days go on and then getting to know each other better, Harlan, Luna, Everett, and Blake kind of figure out that this beast is not trying to hurt them, but it's trying to protect them. There have been certain instances throughout the show when it senses they're in trouble or someone's hurting them, that the beast attacks whoever is causing them pain. So they decide to kind of set a trap to capture this werewolf and see what or who it is that is doing this. So when they set the trap, they're able to capture it. And it turns out that this werewolf is a teenager just like them. And we find out that this is Harlan and Luna's brother they didn't even know they had, but it's their brother. And then from their little trap and capturing it, this werewolf ends up getting hurt and eventually bleeding, and they have to take it to the hospital. And here we're coming to the last episode, but in these last final episodes, a lot of things are coming to light, and we get to know more of a backstory on Kristen Ramsey, on Harlan and Luna, on this teenage boy who's, I forget his name. Yeah, it's a lot. So we find out more about who Kristen Ramsey is. It turns out she's not just an arson investigator, and she's kind of telling her story to Garrett Briggs. So we find out that this woman is actually a werewolf. Yes, she herself is a werewolf. Y'all, I wasn't ready for that. Like, I did not see that part coming. So, as I mentioned before, that big wildfire, they've never seen anything like that before. But Garrett Briggs had mentioned previously that that wildfire was similar to one that he saw when he found Luna and Harlan. And that should have been sending off some warning flags. Like, okay, both related, both werewolves. But there was more to that story. Kristen Ramsey is telling us about what happened during that last fire. And it's like, I guess a fire kind of changes a werewolf a bit. And it turns like a regular werewolf into like a huge mega werewolf. Like how this teenage boy is now like this huge black werewolf beast thing when he changes. And I guess that had happened previously. And in this previous fire, when like a while ago, so he is done, he is dead. And so it's her, and she kind of fights the people that killed her husband because they saw a beast and they're like, bang, bang, shoo, shoo, attack. And so she kills the men that killed her husband. But also in the fire, she lost her kids. So her kids are Harlan and Luna. And so her kids were found by Garrett, and he decided to take care of them, take them under his wing. And so as they were growing older, she found out he had them, and she knew that they were safe. Like, she kind of watched them for a while. She knew that he was taking care of them. She knew that they were safe, and so she's like, okay, they're in good hands. But she didn't really know where her third kid was. So she set this fire. Yes, she set this fire to draw her child out, because she knew kind of what the fire would do to a werewolf, and she was able to find her third kid. But yeah, when she was saying all this and saying like, these are her kids, this is her kid, her husband died, I was like, whoa. Because throughout the series, Harlan and Luna assume that this werewolf that's out there is their dad. They're like, oh my goodness, it's our dad, it's our dad. And nowhere in there mentions a mom or a brother. So this whole time I'm thinking they're going to reveal a man, an adult man that's looking for it and wants his kids back. But no, it's a mom that wants her kids back, and then it's their brother, and he's connected to them in some way. And you know how each werewolf has a power? Their brother's power is turning people into werewolves, so he can bite people and turn them into werewolves. And that was something else that was different, because I just assumed all of them could bite someone and turn them into a werewolf, but then you realize that they don't all have that power. That's a certain power, and their brother has that. So as the season comes to an end, we learn more about Kristen Ramsey and how she's telling her whole story to Garrett. I wonder what's going to happen with them in the future, because he knows the truth. She kind of trusts him, but like her ways of doing things, he's not loving. And then the four of the pack, they're kind of all getting separated. I know we see Everett. He's kind of being taken away to like some type of institution because his parents are worried about him and how he's acting and changing, and he's getting like more aggressive, so they're worried about him and they're like trying to send him away, and he does not want to go. And I know we see like child services coming to take Blake and kind of like separating her from her family. So something's happening where all of them are being separated from each other. So they're all being separated from each other. So that's kind of scary. So yeah, that's how it kind of ends. All of them being pulled in different directions, not being able to be together as a pack anymore, and us learning this huge truth about who Harlan and Luna are, and about their mother and their brother. But overall, watching this TV show, loved it. I loved it. I was eating it up, y'all. I was enjoying myself throughout this entire season. I do think the CGI could have been a little bit better. It wasn't the best, and every time I saw it on screen, I was like, okay. But other than that, I really enjoyed the show. I thought it was really good. It had a vibe of like interesting, like dark, supernatural. I was loving it. It gave off a similar vibe as Teen Wolf, but this one was kind of like on another level. But I really liked it. I had a really good time watching this show. And like I said, if you like Teen Wolf, I would definitely check this one out because I think you might enjoy this one as well. I really liked watching this show, and I like how it took a different look at werewolves, how each one had different power, how they all have certain abilities, how some of them were bitten, some of them were born. And again, it's just something I haven't really seen on TV a lot, like all those different things. So I think I really appreciated that. It was brought something new and fresh, at least for me, because most of the werewolf supernatural things I have seen, they were turned, they were bitten, they all have like the similar abilities, but this was different. I like that. And the whole like parent thing, like parents being werewolves, I think that was also cool, because mostly this is what I expected them. They're teenagers that were werewolves, but their parents weren't, and their parents didn't understand because they have these certain powers. But now we have like an adult who's a werewolf. It brings another element to it as well, and I like the interesting backstory with the fire. I thought that was so cool. So yeah, I had a really good time watching this show, and I need a season 2. But after watching this season of Wolfpack, I would be giving it 5 stars. Yes, I absolutely love it. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year. I had such a good time. I would definitely even rewatch it, I think, because that's how much of a good time I've had. It has a good vibe, good feeling just throughout the entire show. So I hope you enjoyed this review recap video of the show Wolfpack. And like I said before, this needs a season 2. As of right now, I don't know if it's officially getting a season 2, but I think it definitely deserves it. I need another season. So please, whoever is in charge of the show, who's ever a part of the show, please advocate for these fans. We need a season 2 of Wolfpack. Like I mentioned before, you can go catch this season on Paramount Plus. Definitely go watch it. It's so good. So if you guys want any more TV content, feel free to go check out my website. I'll link that below as well. But yeah, I had a great time watching this. Hope you guys had a good time listening to me talk about it. But I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, week, month, and hopefully a good rest of your year. And until next time, bye.